Yes, ma'am. A very good evening to all of you. Welcome to the 164th session of the Center's webinar series for teachers. I hope all of you are keeping safe and staying healthy. The topic for today's webinar is inclusive pedagogy. And the facilitator for this session is Ms. Rajini Johari. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Ms. Rajini has a passion for education, which has led her to offer her services in some of the finest schools across the country, spanning over 30 years. Her focus has always been in guiding teachers for effective classroom transaction and building leadership in students and teachers. She is master's in English and psychology with a B.Ed with validations for teacher training by British Council. She has been associated with the British Council as a training consultant for 21st century core skills and inclusive pedagogy since 2015. She was nominated by CBSE for certificate part 4 in training and assessment of CIT Perth, Australia, and also certified assessor for MIDAS psychometric tool for multiple intelligences by Dr. Brandon Shearer, certified by NABET QCI for preparing schools for accreditation, certified by Jenny Mosley for circle time. She enjoys writing and has written articles for the Progressive Teacher magazine by S. Chan, written a module on multiple intelligence for the teachers app, has written the teacher manual for English Active Teach, the first digital textbook by Pearson, has worked on building the curriculum, written books for PBL for classes 6 to 8, and the teacher manual reviewed textbooks incorporated 21st century skills in an art book, classes 1 to 5. She has been awarded 5 times the Best Teachers Award by Akhil Bharatiya Patrakar Sangh, Rotary Club, Lions Club, and Lions Club International, respectively. Currently, she has been nominated by British Council for an online course on technologies and Aprova. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Before I hand over the session to the facilitator, I would like to inform all the teachers that they will receive participation certificates for the session. So please do fill out the feedback form that will be shared with you towards end of the session. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Harsha. And it's a pleasure to being with all of you here this evening. So, since we have a very limited timeline, so I would like to start straight away. The very first thing that I would like all of you to understand is that today's session, you will be able to hear me, but I will get to only read your responses. Since the topic needs in-depth understanding, I will not be able to do justice to the topic in just 45 minutes. But if I'm able to arouse in you the need to explore more on inclusiveness, I'll feel I've done a good job. So, without much ado, let me start the session with a very straightforward question to all of you. What comes to your mind when I use the term inclusive education? You can use the chat box, you can leave your answers there. I will request Harsha to read out the responses, and if I can, I also would like to look at it.
Definitely, ma'am.
So, my
I'll read out
question
the
is,
responses.
what comes to your mind when I use the term inclusive education?
Ma'am, Madhu ma'am is telling everything in education,
Everything in
student-centered
education.
teaching.
Okay. Student centered, great.
Yeah, catering to all children, admit all, engaging
Admit
all the
all.
students in the study,
Great,
children
great.
with
So,
disabilities,
engage
inclusion
all.
of special need children, a child in mainstream, engage all students in learning,
Great.
everyone's participation.
I think I've already found the responses, and this really tells me that the word inclusive is known, and that's really nice. So, if we understand, I think inclusive, as you all said, I agree when someone says admit all, engage all, child centric, student centric, everything in education needs to be, taken care of. That's inclusive education. Special need children also need to be a part of the mainstream. So I think you are just there on the spot. So the word pedagogy, I need not ask. I'm sure you all understand the meaning of pedagogy. It is the method and practice of teaching an academic subject or concept. Adopting a method which will help us include every student in the learning process is what we will be focusing on. And as someone already said, that admitting all, engaging all, student centric. So we are there bang on. I'll go to my next slide. Yeah. So I want all of you to recall, your feelings when you had moments where you were included. Just give me in words. We don't want sentences. And Harsha, again, I'll request, because I'm not able to see the chat, if you could just tell me
Yes,
what
ma'am.
the
Sure.
participants write. I want you to
Sure,
express your
sure.
feelings. What is the feeling that you get when you are included in something?
Happy, ma'am.
Happy,
Babita ma'am is
great,
telling happy.
great,
Very happy.
very
Moni
happy.
ma'am is telling
Yeah,
fabulous.
you feel
Tutia feeling,
fabulous,
yeah, appreciated, engaged,
appreciated.
excited, elated.
Okay,
Most of
okay.
them
So
are
there.
answering happy, involved.
Yeah, so happy, uh, elated, appreciated. That's great. So also try to recall now when you were not made a part, when you felt excluded. How did you feel then? Yeah, so what are the responses, Harsha?
Ma'am, we need guilty,
Guilty. Oh my God. That's such a heart touching word. You feel guilty
sad,
when you are
left
excluded.
out, depressed,
Left
deprived,
out. Yes.
shattered, dejected, demotivated, sad
Oh
and
my God.
depresses,
Thank you
uncomfortable.
so much, Harsha. I think
Yeah.
that's something that is sounding so painful. Even listening to it is causing so much of pain. So I'm sure all of us are looking for positive responses. We definitely want our children to feel valued. We want our children to be at ease. We want them to feel content. We want them to feel happy. We want them to feel useful, wanted, liked. We definitely don't want them to feel not wanted, upset, sad, frustrated, angry, unhappy, ill, useless, depressed, rejected, disliked. These are such negative emotions. See, we are still able to, recall these emotions because we are still carrying those moments with us. And that's the impact exclusion has. So I'm sure we all don't want our students to grow with these feelings. We definitely want them to feel happy. Do you all agree to this? If yes, just a thumbs up maybe. Can we use icons over here? Okay, let's go to the now let's go to the next question. I want to know, why do students feel excluded? Definitely we don't want them to feel excluded, but yet students go through this feeling of feeling excluded. Can you give me a quick response on this? What could be the possible reasons why students feel excluded? Harsha, I'll request you if you could.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Lack of
I can
confidence, disinterest,
lack of confidence. Okay,
not comfortable.
not comfortable. And what could be the reason for not being comfortable? If teachers here could
Then
think a
next,
little on that.
not appreciated. One of the teacher
Not
is telling, ma'am,
appreciated.
if
Yeah,
not
not
given chance to
appreciated.
speak or express,
Oh, lovely.
yeah.
Not given a chance
When
to
we
speak or
don't involve
express.
them, yeah. Learning disability,
Yes, I think that's a
criticized
great
by peers
response
at
coming.
home,
Yeah, so that's a great,
atmosphere,
all the points covered. Thank you, Harsha. Thank you so much. I think that the team here is really giving good responses, and that keeps me excited. That's really nice. So sometimes children are new to the school, so they feel left out. Now this is not our fault, but because they are new to the environment, they feel excluded. Sometimes, they're coming from some background, so maybe that background is not known to us, so we find certain traits in them a little different, so we make them feel a little excluded. Sometimes there is some difference in their physical abilities, so again we will make them feel that they are different. Then maybe their socio-economic status, maybe their hobbies that they follow is little different, their interests that they have, sometimes not having friends. Even the language could be a big barrier. The language can make children feel excluded because they speak a particular language and the other children do not understand or do not speak that language. Sometimes our own behavior and sometimes the gender, all these can make children feel excluded. So as someone said, that when they are not confident, they feel excluded. They are not comfortable in the new environment. They don't feel appreciated if they are not given a chance to speak or express. So these are reasons why children feel excluded. Now if we know the problem, do you think finding the solution is easy? I'm sure finding the solution is very easy. Now that we know the problem, I think at least we can take our first step to make the solution possible. If we didn't know the problem, then maybe finding a solution is difficult. But now we know the problem. So these are reasons why children feel excluded. So working on those problems and finding a solution accordingly, I think is really helpful. So, what's the first change we would like to bring in ourselves? Now we know that these are the reasons why children feel excluded. So, what's the first thing that we can keep in mind and change in ourselves so that we at least are able to include children? Can you use the chat box to give me some responses? Okay, I'm waiting, Harsha, for the responses.
Listen to the students. If you can repeat the question, ma'am.
Okay, so my question was that what is now we know the problem. So finding the solution is easy. So can you tell me as a teacher or as an educator, what's the first change you would like to bring in yourself?
Try to give them specific role to be appreciative. Let them express, involve them. Try to know more about the learners.
Very good.
We
Try
should
to know more
accept
about the
change,
learner.
not biased.
Not
Empathize with
biased.
them.
Great. So these are again
Then
some very good
child-centric curriculum.
responses. Thank you, Harsha. So what I can see is that not to have a biased behavior. So being very fair, or maybe trying to treat everyone equally. Maybe the change that I would like to bring in myself would be, I would like to listen to my students more carefully. Also can be, I would like to stop assuming. Sometimes we assume, so I would like to stop assuming or jumping to conclusion. Oh, he's not done his homework, it could be this. So instead of just jumping to conclusions or assuming, that's the change I would like to bring in my behavior. Or maybe engage students to communicate more frequently. So we are doing all the talking, but now I will want my students to communicate more freely. That's the change maybe I will like to bring in myself. So when we talk about equality, all getting equal opportunities, irrespective of sex, class, caste, or creed, is something we have been hearing for ages. But have we been able to bring equality in our classroom? Can we recall any instance where we have had a bias keeping gender in mind? See, we all have been in this field of education. We have had children with us, students with us, and we have noted our own behavior. I have observed myself. I have observed people around me. So I'm just trying to ask, can we recall any instance where we had kept a bias, keeping gender in mind? So I'll give you an example. I remember when I saw a boy crying, the mother was asking the boy, are you a girl? All the time crying? Now, this is a very common statement. All of us, I'm sure, have heard it. What was astonishing was once when I was on a round, I saw a girl bring a ball in her bag, and the teacher was telling her that, so you want to be a boy, you want to play cricket. Now, these are some conditionings that we have in our mind. And these conditionings happen because we are, surrounded by people, we observe them, and then somewhere they get settled in their head. They have settled in. When they become democracies, they realize, oh, this is the gender statement I made. So now that it has got your awareness, you will realize that you can say it again. So we call these biases as unconscious bias. So what we need to do is we need to work on these unconscious biases to bring inclusiveness. When we say equality for all, we actually need to look, when we say equality is a big word, can we bring equality instead of dealing with the biases? No. So let's work on the unconscious biases so that we are able to bring inclusiveness in our classroom. That takes me to my next slide, which is again a very important slide. If possible, if you can take a screenshot of this slide, I think we'll be happy, because you see these are policies laid down by different countries. They have made very strict policies so that people who are there in that country will not feel rejected. They want to bring the sense of belongingness. So I will appreciate if all of you, after the session is over, you could explore about these policies a little more. So there are different countries. Whichever country you stay in, then you can compare, to see what policies has our country offered. Are there any policies? How are they different? What is good about our policy? What's missing? And why it is so important for us teachers to know? Because when we as teachers, we understand
Excuse me,
this.
ma'am. Excuse me,
Yes,
ma'am. Sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is breaking a lot, ma'am, in between.
it's cracking.
Yes, ma'am. It is breaking in between, ma'am. Your voice is not
Okay.
clear.
So I checked my internet. It says it's perfect over here. Can the audience also respond? Are we
Audience
able?
only
Are you
responding,
all
ma'am.
able to? Am I audible?
Yeah, it is breaking, ma'am. Your voice is breaking.
So I'm putting my mobile connection also.
Now it is fine, ma'am.
Okay.
Now it is
Okay.
fine.
Thank you so much, Harsha. Thank you. Yeah. So when I was talking about the policies, I want teachers to understand that, when we transform our classrooms, actually the nation transforms. And that is why it is very important for us as teachers to read these policies, to understand how we can bring into our classrooms the equality that we are talking about, the sense of belongingness that we are talking about. So when we talk about this, I again have two questions in my mind. And those two questions are, what could be the possible barriers? See, I have a good intent. I want to bring inclusion in my class. But yet, even with the good intent, I'm not able to transfer that in my action. So, what are the barriers that stop me from bringing inclusion in my class? Why I'm not able to engage students in my learning process? And my second question is, who are the people who are most likely to be excluded from education? So let's think about the barriers first. I'll appreciate a few responses on the chat. And Harsha, I look forward to your support.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what could be the
Can
barriers
you
to
please repeat the
inclusion?
question, ma'am?
I'm repeating. What could be the barriers to inclusion in terms of access and engagement in learning? So, Harsha,
We need
any
to wait for a
response?
minute or so, ma'am. Yeah,
Yeah.
ma'am. We need to wait for a minute.
Yes, Harsha, any response?
No, ma'am, not it. They say
Okay.
religion.
Oh, that's a big barrier. Very true. Religion can be a big barrier. Yes.
So I'm typing out the question because few of the audience are not able to hear you. So what is the barrier in the inclusion, right?
Yeah. What are the barriers?
Uh, can we wait for a minute, ma'am?
Sure, sure. It takes
Lack of
extra effort.
flexibility.
Yeah, someone has just written it takes extra
Yeah,
effort. So that's nice, Usha.
yeah.
And
Oh,
overlooking some finer
oh,
details. And yes, flexibility, language is a big barrier. Special children, another barrier. Are special children a barrier or something beyond that? Think about it a little. Stereotype, correct, stereotype, our own behavior. Prejudice, someone has just answered. Prejudice, Vishakha, prejudice.
one-sided lecture-based teaching, ma'am.
Yes,
Hesitation.
one sided. Yes,
Yeah,
that could be a
being
barrier.
judgmental, our
Being
own
judgmental,
conditioning, social
correct, correct.
economic status, lack of
Status,
training, fixed
lack of
mixed I mean,
training.
yeah,
Yes,
fixed
yes, yes,
mindset,
yes.
motivate them to speak,
Yes. So if now,
materialization of yeah.
yeah, that brings me to my next slide. And if you look at the barriers, so we talk about, poverty. Poverty can be a very big barrier. See, they are all the time focused on, getting finding their meals. So education does not come to them at all. It can easily be the socioeconomic structure. In a country like India, competition. There's so much of competition in our country. So competition can be one big reason of a barrier. Lack of funds. The child may want to study, but they don't have enough money. Again, in our country, our classes are overcrowded. So that's a big barrier for the teacher. How is she to take care of 40 children? And in some places, maybe even 50. Lack of training, that was something so very important, that we expected to take care of so many variety of children coming. Are we trained for that? Then there is the pressure of result. So we are very board oriented. Our country is very board oriented, so that becomes a pressure. Attitude and prejudices, we have so many prejudices. Our own attitude, we don't understand what inclusion is, so that's a big barrier. We need to change in our attitude. Geographical placement, if I'm staying in a remote place, maybe there's no school over there, and maybe the school is a little far away. How will the children walk and come to that distance? Special education needs and disabilities, how much do we understand these children? How much are we trained to handle them? Sometimes refugees, they are coming from a very different background. Emotionally, maybe they are too disturbed and cannot be a part. That could be a barrier. Language is a very big barrier. Gender is another big barrier. Sometimes it is caste, it is the tribe that you come from or from the race that you come from. That can be a barrier. So someone said religion can be a very big barrier. So when we look at this, we realize that there are many, 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 many barriers which we as teachers have to cross. But as I say, when we know that these are the barriers, then I feel definitely we can work on it and we can make it better. So if I have to summarize inclusiveness, and if you want to bring this in our structure, we will have to keep in mind, it requires systemic change. That means there has to be some policies not only at the government level but also at the school level. We talk about social change can only happen when we open up. There has to be a cultural change. For cultural change, we need to increase our tolerance. Reason, we will have to look at the physical changes. We will have to work on our attitudes, and we will have to look at our pedagogy. So someone just said, one side lecture teaching, that can be very boring for a class. So we definitely need to look at pedagogy so that we are able to include everyone with our pedagogy and bring the inclusiveness that we are looking for. So if we have to summarize, it's not just the pedagogy that needs to be changed. There are other factors which we need to look at when we are dealing with pedagogy in our classroom. That now, if you look at these issues, they will have to be addressed in a very wider context. I have just summarized it for you. But however, I believe that schools and teachers can positively affect change for their students by changing the experiences and the expectations around students and creating inclusive, respectful cultures for staff and students. It cannot be that we only create a culture for students. We have to create a culture which is like visible. That means two teachers talking together. So we have to include a very respectful culture in the school, which is visible to the children, and children pick it up from there. So the expectation is that we create inclusive, respectful cultures for staff and students. It has to be both together. That takes me to the next slide, which is a very interesting slide. Look at it. It's going to, pose a few questions in your mind. So we spoke about equality. Now there's a new term that has walked in, and that is equity. Look at this picture carefully and tell me what you understand by equity and how is it different from equality. You can take a minute to respond in the chat box. So someone just wrote, equity is to give everyone a chance. And Usha writes, under equity, all are getting same benefits. All on the same level. Equity means providing as much as required. Preeti Singh writes that, and yes, equity means providing as much as required. Then
Helping
scaffolding
everyone
students,
to grow equally, ma'am.
yeah, helping everyone grow equally,
Those who are at lower level, they need more support.
more
Single size
support.
does not fit all.
Yes, that is the word, Single size does not fit all. And here we see we have a common curriculum and we follow it all. We have one type of examination assessment and we want all of them to fit in there. So when you look at equality, all students should be treated equally. We say that. Or should some students who need more help and support should be given that help and support? So it's like, I need to eat vitamin D, but someone is giving me vitamin C. My body does not require vitamin C, it requires vitamin D. So I need vitamin D to be given, not C. So similarly, in equity, it says that as per the need of the student, provide the support, provide the resource. So equality is giving everyone the same. You see the disadvantage over there? The tall boy didn't need a stool under him, but he still has a stool under him. And look at the tiniest boy who was there, who wanted to see across the fence. Even after what was given to him, he could not see across the fence. He is seeing through a slit and he's seeing a very limited vision. He has a very limited vision over there. Whereas in equity, the tall boy didn't need a stool, so he was not given. The second boy, yes, he needed a stool, so he remains there because his head is above the fence and he gets the view of the whole stadium. Whereas the little one who was seeing through the slit now has the second stool on him and he gets a complete vision of that field, which is much better. So I think that is the change that we all have to look at. That, now talking about equality, we move to equity, that we provide them as per their need. The resources are given as per their need. So I'm sure all of you would agree if I ask you, what would you go for? And I'm sure the chat box will get filled with equity. We have to look for equity. Do you all? I'm sure you all agree to that. Yeah, each one is different. Make them feel they are equal. Yes, you make them feel that they are equal, but you provide each one as per their need. So it's equity that we are going to look at, and this is something from equality we move to equity. Now, if you, I'll go to my next slide, and I'm sure this is something all of you have seen. Many a times you must have received it as a message on WhatsApp, and we as teachers, we really like this quote. I have liked it, and I've forwarded it to many of my friends. So it says that when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So what are we doing? If we look at the flower, suppose the flower for us is our student. If it doesn't do well, we try to fix the environment in which it grows. We don't. We try to fix the child. And this brings me, I would like to talk about two models which are very, very important. Sorry. This brings me to two models which I want to talk about. One is the medical model and the other is the social model. In the medical model, what is happening? We put the entire blame on the child. Oh, he has this disability, he has this, he has this. We know all the terms and we'll be labeling the child, and then we look for treatment accordingly. So if someone says he's a slow learner, okay, so what is the therapy that we need to give, what are the interventions that we need to make, and then we try to fix the student so that he will fit into the society. That is what we do in a medical model. In a social model, what happens? We believe that the student is complete. Whatever he is or she is, the student is complete. He or she is unique in their own right, and we don't see it as faulty. It is recognized that people have impairments, but it is we, through our attitude and environmental barriers, disable them. Because we feel, oh, he can't hear, she can't hear, he can't see, oh, she has this problem. So what are we doing? It's our attitude which is creating a barrier and making them more disabled. So that's something that we need to work on, our attitude. In the social model, we have to identify the strengths and not their weaknesses, not their difficulties. We all work together to accept and celebrate differences, and we remove barriers to learning. So there are differences. What we do, we accept them and we celebrate that difference, and we try to remove that barrier for learning. And the goals are the same. Remember that the goal will not change, but we all together will work together to achieve them. So what we need to do for that particular child, maybe the services and the resources that are provided are going to be different. So we will have to work on those services and on those resources and provide it accordingly to the child. Now, class teachers need to be trained with strategies so that they can help such learners in the class. So we will not tell them, oh, they are born with this, so they cannot be a part of the system. No, they are born normal. We make them feel, that they are not normal. So we have to change our attitude. We have to include them in our system. But we as teachers need to be trained with strategies so that we are able to take care of all of them. So very important to state that no system is perfect. I can't say the medical system is perfect or the social model is perfect. No. But a combination of these two will actually be very helpful. And I always say that it is the teacher's response that will decide the ethos of the class. It is my response in the class that will decide the ethos of the class. So most of the time, what we as teachers do a blunder, that we label the child and we only see the label. We do not see the child. So I will request all of you, educators need to understand that, don't look at the label, look beyond that. There is a child who is seeking your attention. So stop looking at the label, start looking at the child. That's something that I would want all of you to remember always. For inclusiveness, we need to change our own understanding, which is our attitude, Once we understand, our attitude will change. Treating special education need and disability child as complete and providing as per his or her need is required. That is what we need to keep in mind, that they are complete, they are not disabled. It is our thought, it is our attitude that is making them disabled, which means we as teachers have to upskill ourselves to face the challenge. Barriers are known, so how to cross them is to be worked upon. That is something we all have to understand, that we now know the barriers. It's our attitude, it's our understanding. Let's improve that, and let's see the child and not the label that's put on it. And that is where we come to pedagogy, and that is where pedagogy becomes very important. So how do what can we do in the classroom which will which will make the class inclusive? So when we talk about pedagogy, we are going to talk about four types of pedagogy. So we're going to talk about inclusive language, we're going to talk about inclusive classroom, we're going to talk about inclusive learning, and we're going to talk about differentiation. And I'm sure differentiation is something which I saw a lot teachers talking about it in the chat also. And a lot is already known to all of you. I think, but when we meet, when we talk, when we discuss, I think our determination to do what we believe in increases. So these sessions are actually not something, I'm sure it adds value, but it adds value in terms of determination. It makes you feel that, yes, this is something I always thought. And yes, I should go and practice it in my classroom. And this will change my classroom. So for that determination, we have these sessions. And I hope that, this session is helping all of you. So let's talk about the very first uh, pedagogy, which is inclusive language. We all will agree that inclusive language actually plays a very important role in creating inclusive environment, and it is that language which will set the ethos in the classroom. I'm going to read out a few sentences for all of you. Tell me, when I speak that sentence as a teacher in the classroom, does it sound inclusive, or is it a sentence that is making my children feel excluded? So I'm reading out the first sentence, and the first sentence is, I'm a teacher in the class. Okay. Visualize me standing in a classroom with my children there, my students in the class. And I make I ask a question. How can we create a great listening environment in this class? Did this sentence sound to you like an inclusive sentence, a sentence, the language of it? Is it creating an inclusiveness, or does it separate? Yeah, Nisu says, well explained. Thank you so much. Now, can you all tell me about this sentence? Yes. You write a yes
Okay.
if you feel that yes,
Sonu
it's an
ma'am is
inclusive.
telling inclusive, ma'am. Smita ma'am, Jyoti ma'am, they are telling like inclusive, exclusive.
Yeah. So
Raina, yeah, Raina Singh is also telling separate. Then Mr. Govind is
okay.
telling inclusive.
So why if I make this sentence in the classroom, the feeling is that of inclusion. If you are saying that it is making you feel excluded, then maybe that person can explain a little why you feel that it is not an inclusive statement. Okay, most of you have written inclusive. Okay. Now my next sentence. Please listen to this carefully. I have told you many a times that you cannot talk in my class. Is it an inclusive statement or an exclusive? Exclusion. Inclusive. I have told you many a times that you cannot talk in my class.
They are
The way
telling
you
inclusive,
pronounce.
exclusive, ma'am.
So
Not
now let me
inclusive.
tell you. So you are not sure. You feel that it is, some say inclusive, some say exclusive. So let me give a clarity over here now. So you see now, when I say I have told you many a times, what am I doing? In my class, I have 40 students and I'm pointing my finger to only one child. And that creates exclusion. So I can see many of you now writing, yes, it is exclusive. It is making the child feel that he is all alone and the rest of the class is on one side. So what is the teacher doing? Teacher is opposing the student. And this behavior of opposition creates exclusion. So now from here, if the teacher will not improve this behavior, what will happen? The child will start disliking the teacher. From the teacher, the child will start disliking the subject. From the subject, the child starts disliking the class. From the class, the child starts disliking the school. And then there is a fallout. And we may not give so much weightage to the sentence, but the sentence matters a lot to the student. Yes, so it is an exclusive statement. Now I'll go to the next. And suppose if I had to change this and make it inclusive, I could have just said, Didn't we decide that during the class we will not talk? I think that was enough. And the child would have got the hint that, oh God, I was talking, ma'am has seen me, and this was for me. You don't have to point out. And it will slowly, the child, not slowly, in a very subtle way, the child will understand. Okay, now I go to my third sentence. It is because of these few uninterested students that I am not able to complete my syllabus. Tell me, is it inclusive, exclusive? Exclusive. Great. Now, what is happening over here? There is a conflict between the teacher and the student. That some uninterested students in the class, they are not letting me. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hatred in this sentence, and a conflict is clearly visible. So it is not inclusive, but it is an exclusive statement. When made, it hurts. The children don't like it. And I think a better way would be, class, help me finish my syllabus. This creates a bond. This will not create a conflict. Great. So I'm going now to my fourth sentence. You stand up. Why did you not wish me? Is it inclusive or is it exclusive? You stand up. Why did you not wish me? Yes. So I can see people writing that you're blaming someone. Very correct. You're getting very personal. It sounds like a confrontation in the class. It's like one student versus the teacher. And all the other students will decide, whether they have to laugh at it or they have to mock at it. And you see the chaos that's there in the class. So I as a teacher, because now my attitude, I understand I have to be inclusive. I would have said, remember, we always greet each other before we start the class. And I'm done. So the child who did not wish knows, okay, this was for me. I better be careful next time. My last sentence. How can I improve my teaching techniques so that the whole class benefits? Is this inclusive or exclusive? Okay. How can I improve my teaching techniques so that the whole class benefits? Okay, because I've used the word I, so you feel that I have excluded myself from the group, and that is why it is not an inclusive statement. But am I not including all the students in the class so that I can improve my own teaching technique? So you think it is still exclusive? It will exclude, or will it include? Inclusive. Okay, thank you so much. So now you see the class ethos has been set. Why? Because the teacher knows what language to use in the class. I'm sure all of you know, many places they don't say chairman now. They call chairperson. Many places. There's never a salesman. There is a sales executive or a sales representative. So we are becoming very conscious of how we use our vocabulary. And that is the change that is visible only when there is an understanding and your attitude changes. So when the teacher knows how to use inclusive language, inclusive classroom will not be difficult, because she knows how to make the children feel a part of the class. So here, by inclusive classroom, what do we mean? We mean engaging students in building the ethos of the classroom. So what happens? We ask children. Now there are many schools where they have the class rules, but I just realized we make the class rules, we tell the children only make class rules, and they hang it. And now it's a every year practice, so they repeat the same rules, they sign on it, and it is put in the classroom. But this was something very interesting. And this, I picked up from a school when I was in UK, where they said that how do they make the class rules? They will ask children, what values do you want to bring to your class? So based on those values, they will talk about right. What is your right? Everyone, when it comes to rights, everyone knows what are their rights. But when it comes to duties, very few people know about their duties. So in UK, I saw this, that when, they were setting up the class rules, they said, okay, tell me what values would you like to bring to your class? And then, okay, if these are the values you want to bring, what are the rights that you have? And if you have these rights, what is the responsibility you will fulfill? And I found this very meaningful. So based on that, they would make, their school rules. So for example, suppose the child said, I value collaboration. Okay, then the teacher asked, okay, so what is the right that you want? So he says, I because I want collaboration, I should have the right to express. I should have the right to seek help. It should not be that I'm told, what are you doing? Why are you talking to him? Why are you seeking help from him? No, this is the right that I should have, that I should be able to express and seek help. So then they said, okay, and what is the responsibility? So he says, my responsibility will be, because I have been given the right to seek and express, I would also have the responsibility to listen to others when they express. I should know how to work with them in groups. This is the responsibility. So that is how they would make the school, the class rules. So I'll request all of you to look at it a little, that do ask your children what values do they want to bring to the classroom, and then maybe, what are the rights and the responsibilities that this value demands should be jotted down, so that then children know, that, oh, we cannot break this because it is we who agreed to it, and it is we who need this, and that is why we have to follow it. It becomes personal because students have understood why they were created. So this is something I would want all of you to look at. And now we come to inclusive learning. So I can see it is already 47. So I'll take a few minutes. For inclusive learning, what is inclusive learning? We all work together in collaboration. So suppose a teacher taught a chapter and the students did not understand it. There are some, not all, but they're very shy to ask questions. Now, how do I make him or her a part of my class? So I have this, I have a doubt notebook. And I tell my children, after I'm gone, you can write down your question over there and leave it, so that when I come the next day, I can look at your doubts and then, start the session from there. That is one way. The other way the teacher can do is, you are free to pick your buddy. You pick up your buddy and you decide from whom you would like to seek help. Now, suppose you have decided that this is my buddy, and that buddy says, oh, even I am not very clear on this, I need help. So the buddy can go to another buddy. So there is a network that's created, and all are collaborating and all are learning from each other. So this is called inclusive learning, where children are helping. And what the teacher will do, she will come to the class next day and she will ask, okay, I want to see, is there any doubt that the student has raised in the book? She can start the session from there. Or she can also ask, how is the buddy system doing in the class? Are you all helping each other? So that's the motivation and the encouragement that the teacher can give to the class. Another very interesting strategy is, I will give a statement. Children, you complete it. Sometimes I can twist it. I can say, okay, I'm giving you a statement, challenge my statement. So that brings a lot of perceptions out in the classroom, because each statement becomes a topic of discussion. So for example, if I say the new education policy will transform the classroom, and now I have to challenge this statement. So another child will say, only teachers can bring in transformations. Another student will challenge it by saying, students nowadays suffer from attention deficit. Another student wants to challenge this statement and may say, parents earn, families burn. Now the teacher wants to know, what makes you say that? Parents earn, families burn. What was playing on your mind? So when the child starts talking, other students also become a part of this discussion and see the immense learning that's happening, because all are coming from different backgrounds. And this is something which is, bringing an openness of discussion where everyone is free to say their mind. They may be, the perceptions may be different. They may disagree, but there will be respect for each point that is made by the class students. So increasing tolerance, that's something that will be learned a lot through this method. I'll come to the last, and which is differentiation. And we all know differentiation happens, maybe in a task. So the task can be told, okay, you solve 5 problems, you can solve 3 problems, you solve 2 problems. Because I know the outcome is the same. I just want to see whether children have understood fractions. So if the children, they're able to complete 2 sums, I know they're slow. So if they are able to answer 2 problems, I know they've understood the topic. Sometimes I change the text. I know the vocabulary used in this in the comprehension. Oh my God, it's very tough. So what I can do, I can simplify for some. So these are sheets that the teacher needs to keep ready. A proper comprehension, a tough vocabulary, some can use it, but some may need a simplified one. Sometimes the processes. Oh, he wants to be a CA, so he wants to do level 1 mathematics. He doesn't want to be a CA, so level 2 mathematics will do. These are processes. Oh, this child is not interested in social sciences. Okay, he or she is interested in fine arts. We can give fine arts. These are processes, these are policies that are made. And sometimes by questions, we know for these children we can have objective type of questions, yes or no, true, false, multiple choice questions, fill in the blanks, match the columns. For some we can have short answers, subjective and objective. Wherefore for some we can have open ended questions. Not all are good at answering open ended, so we can have a mixture of questions when we are deciding our assessment also. If And this can only happen when you know your students very well. And that brings me to a very important slide, which I would like to conclude by this slide. And I'm sure all of you have seen it. Differentiation means tailoring instructions to meet individual needs. Remember that. We have to meet individual needs. And this, I think, is a beautiful picture to conclude, where you can see the teacher sitting there. Students are a variety of students. And he says, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. And look at Albert Einstein, what he says. Everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And I'm sure we teachers, when we want to bring inclusion in our classroom, we want our children to feel confident. And I'm sure some of the strategies that I've shared today, I just hope that they were helpful and useful also. Try them out in the classroom. And if there is a way of giving a feedback, do let us know whether it worked out for all of you. I would like to end my session over here. And I'll open the session to all of you for questions. You can pose your questions and I'll try my best to answer. Harsha, if you could help me with the questions, if any.
Definitely, ma'am. Uh,
It says it was an interactive session.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Informative session. Thank you so much. It was a nice session.
Ma'am, Sonu ma'am is asking, what is inclusive education?
So inclusive, bringing all of them together. There is no barrier of caste, class, creed, sex. Bringing every child to school is inclusive education. And we should have pedagogies so that we are able to fulfill the dream that inclusive education has.
Thank you for the reply, ma'am. We need to wait for 1 or 2 minutes, ma'am, for the audience to type in the questions. Can you please share examples of equity? Deepthi ma'am is asking.
Yeah, so when we talk about equity, now suppose in my class I have a child who has a listening problem. So in the school we have rotation system. So the poor child, irrespective of what problem he has, if he is told no, it is on rotation, go and sit on the last bench. So that is something we are not helping him as per his need, his or her need. So I would change the rule over there and I would say no, because this child has this problem, I, as a teacher, would like to offer him this fixed chair from where from where he or she is comfortable. So I will inquire from the child that, are you comfortable sitting in this position, on this bench, on this particular, the first row or the second row, or the third row, the corner seat, wherever I've placed the child. I will seek information from the child to know whether he or she is comfortable sitting there and whether I am audible to the child. So this is equity, where I'm taking care as per the need of the particular child. Some children, some students may have a vision problem. So it's so important that I again be very careful in giving him the center row so that he can see the board. Sometimes when you're sitting in the side rows, there is a glare on the board and that stops the children from seeing, what's written on the board. So this is equity, where I'm providing as per the need of the student. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you for the reply, ma'am. Raina Singh ma'am is asking, please tell the strategies for inclusiveness of senior students.
I think what I shared this is another myth that we have, that juniors have different strategies and seniors have different strategy. I only want to tell you that, once we create the value in the strategy, then let it be junior or seniors, they fall in place. Because when I was talking about I have a doubt, this I have done it with class 11th and 12th. And my children, some of them were very hesitant to come and, were very hesitant to talk about their problems to the teacher. But when we had this, the notebook over there, I found many students going there and writing their doubts, and it was very sensibly used in class 11th. Similarly, we also had the buddy system. When we had remedial classes, my students told me that, ma'am, we want to have a session only with buddies. We don't want teachers walking in. So we gave them sessions only with buddies, and they did very well in that subject. So there is no such thing as only senior or junior. It is how much of value you create about the strategy in the classroom.
Thank you for the reply, ma'am. Preeti ma'am is asking how to include slow learners.
Yeah, so now see, slow learner, you have to have a strategy in place, because one is that you need to be trained to understand how the slow learner learns. I'm not trained for it. I will not be able to do it. But now, when I have this slow learner in my class, it becomes very important, because the school will be having a special educator. So it will be very important for that subject teacher to tie up with the special educator to learn a few skills from the special educator, so that she is able to help the child in the class. So that's where now, a lot of pressure is coming on school to train teachers so that they know how to handle, how to manage all the variety that they have in the classroom.
Thank you for the reply, ma'am. Shrikala ma'am is asking how can we fill the gap of 2 year gap of inclusive education which happened because of online education.
Yeah, so as I said, if we stop using the language that is reminding our students and again, oh, because ye do saal we had COVID and now this has happened, we stop ranting about it, and we stop talking so much about it. Instead, we work on our language, inclusive language. How can I help you? Okay, you have this problem. Let us sit together and see how we can help it. Now, once the child will see that, no, definitely the interest will arise. The problem now is that we are too stuck up with this thought, that, oh, for 2 years children were home, they've come back as brats to us. I hear it very often. But the minute you will change your own perception, your own attitude towards them, at least they will want to come to you and listen to you. So I would say, first throw this out of your system, that there is a gap. Improve your vocabulary. Means I would say inclusive language, improve on that, and you will see a response.
Thank you for the response, ma'am. Dr. Pratima ma'am is asking, is appreciating one or few students in the class is inclusive approach? Please, can you comment?
Yeah, so whenever we appreciate one student, then there are other students who didn't get a chance to speak, they feel a little let down. So you can ask the class, what do you feel about the answer or the statement or the perception or the opinion shared by this child? What do you feel about it? So let the class take up the responsibility of appreciating the student. When the teacher does it, definitely the other students feel, oh, I also knew it, but I didn't get a chance to speak. So they feel a little low. So it will be very nice if we can put this responsibility on the students. Let them say, yes, ma'am, the answer given or whatever he said, we agree. And someone may be there who says, I disagree. Okay, so please stand up. Add your thoughts, share your thoughts with us. So the responsibility is on the class. It's not on the teacher then.
Thank you for the reply, ma'am. We can have one more question, ma'am. How to bring inclusion of the special child in the class? How to improve his or her social skills? How to make his or her peers to understand the value of inclusion of special child in the classroom?
Yeah. So I will give you a practical example of what I did once in school. So there was this child who was a slow learner and used to, other students didn't want to sit with her because they always felt, oh, she's a little weird. So what I did was, I one day took a session. I made sure that, I called up the parents and I told the parents, do not send Sonal to school today. I want to talk to the class. And then, Sonal on intention was made to sit at home. Parents found an excuse of not letting her know what we are doing. And then I spoke to the class. I created an awareness in them of the problems that the child is facing. And I asked them, how can we support this girl so that, she also climbs up the ladder with all of you? And it was not just one session. I think, I had to give reminders. I would go to the class to see whether she has a partner, whether they are all eating their tiffins together. I had to put in that effort. And when I saw that, yes, the children were also trying to, they had sometimes certain questions, and I would tell them, okay, I will come to your class in the music period, because we had children sometimes in the music period, some of them going to practice some other sports. I would tell them, okay, I'll come and answer this question to you when I see that Sonal is not around, because I would not want her to know. And then this one-to-one interaction with students, I saw an amazing change in the children. They became so very careful about her. They were very, very mindful of what they spoke in the class. And if some other student made a mistake, they would also, take the responsibility of guiding that child that, next time be watchful when you say something like this. So I think your own involvement is very, very important. Empathy, when it is there in the classroom, I think things are in place. It takes time. It is not just, a one day story. It will be a 1 year long story, but at the end you will see that, yes, students have started valuing the student in the class, one who is a slow learner.
Thank you for the reply, ma'am. Padma ma'am is asking, can we prepare different question paper for students according to their learning abilities in the half yearly exams or other?
Now, this is a policy given by the board. Depends on which board the school is following, but there is a policy by the board that, yes, special need children, their question papers are very different. But you know what is the blunder that schools do? They make these children sit in a different room, and then we make them feel that they are different. It's very important that question paper will be different, but they have to be sitting in the same class like the other students are. We should not put them in some separate room where they know that, oh, it's another paper that comes to them. Letting them know that they have a different paper, children have to understand why the paper is different, but the child should not be made to sit in a separate room to answer that paper. That is the precaution we need to take. And the board has policies that for special need children, yes, you need to simplify the question paper as per their need.
Thank you for the reply, ma'am. Tiwari ma'am is asking, do you think that with effort, an autistic child can get back to normal life?
So you cannot, when I say normal, they are normal only. That is the attitudinal change that we need to bring, that we now feel autistic is not normal. For him or her, that child is complete. It is our attitude that will make him or her feel that, no, I'm different. So do not throw that out from your mind that an autistic child is different. Autistic child's needs are different. So find out what is the need of that particular child and accordingly provide. And my dear, the teacher, if she's not trained to handle autistic child, she should talk to the special educator, to the counselor of the school. She has to be trained to handle that autistic child in the classroom.
Thank you for the reply, ma'am. One last question, ma'am. How to handle inclusion in an overcrowded class?
Yeah, that's a big challenge. That's a very, very big challenge. But I know one thing. Again, I have done it with 78 students in one school where I was serving. I had 78. They used to club two sections together for that particular subject, because there were not many teachers for that. And then I realized that if you have an eye-to-eye contact with the children, when your language is positive, when you give them a feeling of bonding, then 78 students also can be handled. But every child has to feel, she looks at me, oh, she has an eye on me, she does take care of me, she is interested in me. And that feeling, I think, solves the problem. It is difficult. I will not say that it is easy. It is difficult. But in the initial 1 month, if you spend time only on building that rapport with the class, for the next 9 months, you are settled.
How about naughty children, ma'am, in the class? How to handle those? Few teachers have asked the same question.
Yeah, so naughty children, actually, they're very intelligent, So it's very important to understand what is the naughtiness that's keeping them so active. And all this only happens when you are able to communicate, talking to them and finding out. So I know there was one child, every time a child would cross his bench, he would just put his leg out and see the child fall, and then he would laugh. So I just asked him once, I said, why do you do that? Do you enjoy someone getting hit? He says, no, I enjoy the fall. I said, so after the fall, you're not able to see what happened to the child. He said, no, because the child is very angry, does not talk to me and he leaves. I said, okay, so I need to spend time. What I used to do when he used to do that, I used to tell the child, turn back, show how, where it pains. And then I made the child sit on the bench and I told him, see, now he will put his leg out, fall and at least feel the pain. It's very important at times to get one on one with the instance, because that brings the change in the student then. So again, I would say it is the communication which is required, where you are able to freely talk to the child and you are also able to get things from the child. He may make a very nasty statement, but you have to be open, because your objective is to make him understand that your naughtiness is causing harm. So be open. Do not feel, ki, Arey, he replied in such a nasty way. No, he will reply because he is having some nasty thoughts. But we have to work on that thought. And the teacher has to be very sensible there. She has to be open to whatever comes. So a good communication can take care of naughty students.
Ma'am, one more question from one of the international teacher. Okay, so Mr. Chandan Pal Adhana, he's working as an international teacher in Kazakhstan, it seems, and
Hmm.
he can't make inclusiveness in his class. So he wants a reply before we end the session, ma'am.
So he is not able to bring inclusive classrooms. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes.
So I think the whole session was about how to make your classroom inclusive. So the very first thing, as I said, when you talk about inclusiveness, work on your language, work on your attitude, because it's your attitude in your understanding, and in your understanding reflects in your attitude. If your attitude, if you have that inclusiveness in your attitude, your language will change. Once your language changes, your classroom will change. So that's what I feel you need to do for in your attitude. First, understand the importance of inclusiveness. Automatically, you will find that your classroom, your own language towards your students will change, and that will bring inclusiveness.
Ma'am, he is telling many cultures, ma'am. Because of
Ah,
cultures, yeah.
yeah, so that I've seen. Even in India, we have many students from different cultures. So that is where we need to give time where children talk about their cultures. So it's very important for them to see that, okay, you all celebrate Diwali like this, and in our country we have a similar festival like this, which is almost like Diwali. So when we have these common exchange of, where we are talking about our cultures, then the richness comes in the classroom, where children start understanding the beauty of every culture. Again, this is not easy. It will take, it will take time, because you need to let children talk, and we also need to let children celebrate, so that our children are able to see the differences and appreciate them. That's very important.
Ma'am, because of time, I think, we think we need to stop our session here, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Rajini Johari, for a very engaging and informative session for our community of teachers. I'm sure that our teachers have got a lot of takeaways from this session. Thank you so much, all participants, for engaging with us today. To register for more such upcoming webinars, please visit my center. Thank you once again.
I just want to